Hi, this is Dennis from Cyberkraft. Today I'm going to be doing something a little different. I'm going to be challenging myself by taking a quiz. Now, the catch here with the quiz is every other word in the question is blacked out. So I'm going to be presented with a series of questions. It's going to be based off of CompTIA Security Plus. Every other word is going to be blacked out at every other word interval. I'm going to have to figure out what the question's asking and try and answer it the best I can. The goal here is to pass the quiz. So let's go ahead and jump into it and see what we have. I had one of my senior instructors, Dr. Lewis Beeler, make this quiz for me. Let's see what he came up with. Okay, I think this could be pretty challenging. I don't think I have a way to see any questions here. So which blank identification blank involves blank on blank source blank without blank it? Okay, so I got to figure out what this is asking. And the goal here is to kind of show you how you can pick keywords out from a question to help answer the question. So one of the things I'm noticing is that it looks like the words were blacked out, but I can see kind of the length of the word. So that gives me a little clue. Which something identification blank, this might be identification method, involves blank source blank without blank it. Okay, so maybe this identification method involves doing something to the source without, maybe that's revealing it. Let's see what the possible answers are. Static analysis, dynamic analysis, penetration testing, and packet monitoring. Okay, so if we pick something like static analysis, that means like source code, right? So we're source code analysis, which something identification method involves something, and this is and, so this has to start with a val, something source without something it. I would think it'd be static analysis. That could be source code, a something source code without executing it, maybe. And that does describe static analysis, which something identification method, I think method involves blank. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead with static analysis. Penetration testing doesn't make sense here. Dynamic analysis, and that could be like which vulnerability or malware identification technique involves something source without source code, I think, without something it. I don't think it'd be package monitoring, and that doesn't really make sense of the thing. I'm going to go with static analysis. Let's see if that works. Okay, let's go to the next one. All right. Which blank is blank used, blank send, blank, and I'm just going to read the words that are actually there instead of saying blank. And messages, network, routers, something firewall, a monitoring. Okay, so which is used, which something is used, is something used, probably to send packets, maybe, and something else, messages to network nodes, routers, switches, and firewalls, probably, to a blank monitoring. Okay, maybe to a central monitoring hub. Now, let's look at the question, the answers here. SNMP, simple network mapping protocol or monitoring protocol. I'm drawing a blank here. Maybe because I'm looking at so many blanks. NetFlow, SCAP, syslog over TLS. I'm having trouble with this one. Which maybe protocol is used? Is blank used to send? Maybe I'm guessing that's to send something and something net messages from network nodes to a central monitoring hub. That's what I'm guessing. I think SNMP trap would make sense. Though syslog makes a lot of sense. Because we're picking something that's going to be sending out or sending messages to a central hub. So I think it's going to be probably syslog. This is pretty tough. It's a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be. I'm going to try. No, I'm going to go with SNMP. That's my first instinct. And there's not half the information is missing. I'm going to try SNMP. I think this makes sense because you should have different monitoring ports set up with each of these devices using SNMP to collect this information. So I'm going to try SNMP. Okay. Your blank has a public blank that blank external blank for blank valid blank vulnerabilities blank to your blank. This is known as, that's what I think that probably means. Your bug bounty program, penetration testing, responsible disclosure program, threat feeding integration. I think this is referring to bug bounty because this is saying for valid something vulnerabilities to your, I would guess this is company, your company or organization, probably company just based on the, has a public something that allows external testers for submitting valid malicious vulnerabilities. Could also be responsible disclosure program. I think it's a bug bounty program, in which the idea here is people, the public bug bounty hunters will find vulnerabilities on your website or whatnot, and then send those to you for a monetary reward. I think that's bug bounty. We do that here with Cyberkraft too. We have a bug bounty program. Okay, let's do this one. A blank solution, blank when an employee, something to blank a something containing card to personal. This is an example of threat monitoring. Something. Okay, this is an example of, I'm thinking that's what this is. A something solution is probably an acronym. When an employee, so it's something to do with an employee. Let's take a look here. Alerting, log aggregation, vulnerability scanning, or package monitoring. I would think it's probably just, wait, this is an example of, this could be like what monitoring technology, maybe. When an employee, something card to a personal something. So is an employee finding a card, like a physical card? Package monitoring, vulnerability scanning, log aggregation, or alerting. I'm not sure what we're talking about here. And I guess that's kind of the point of this challenge. It's an example of what? Central, something monitoring. If it's log aggregation, this could be central monitoring. Or this could be vulnerability monitoring. It's not vulnerability, it's probably too short for that. Alert monitoring system. This could be SIM. And if I highlight, I don't get anything. Do I? No. That'd be cheating anyway. I'm not sure what this is. I don't know what this card means. This is throwing me off. Containing what card? If it's a card, is that a physical card? Something solution. I'm going to go with alerting. I really don't know here. This makes me think that it's something physical, which if it was physical, log aggregation wouldn't make sense. Neither would vulnerability scanning. I'm going to try that. Package monitoring too. I wonder. Let's try that. Let's just try alerting. All right. After blank, a blank to blank, a blank vulnerability. Something is the best next step to validate something. Okay, so is, I would think, the best next step. So I think this is 3 characters long. The best next step to validate. That's 2 characters long. And that's consistent. 3, 4, and 2 characters, which means this would also be 3 characters long. So this would have to be 4 characters long, or maybe 5. What is the best next step to validate something? After blank, a blank to blank, a blank vulnerability. What is the best next step to validate blank? Okay. Now this is a tough one because it's giving us an area and then asking us what the best next step is to validate what. We don't know what we're validating. So I would assume this means after something to a vulnerability, are we containing the vulnerability? Something is the next best step to validate. Well, if we're validating something, that means we've already performed a step and we want to double check what we just did. So updating the database won't validate anything. Purchasing insurance won't validate anything. And requesting exemption won't validate anything. So I think this is the only thing that's going to validate something. So I think it's the first one. This is a really tough challenge. All right. Okay. SCAP. So we got that. SCAP is primarily used for blank of the following. For which of the following? Okay. SCAP is primarily used for which of the following. It's the first question that I got the full question from it. SCAP is used for which of the following? And I believe SCAP is used with logs to, communicate the log files to like a SEM device. Or is it not? Wait. Automate configuration, checking, and vulnerability assessment against standardized benchmarks. That sounds correct too, actually. Real-time intrusion detection, encrypting log transmissions, blocking outbound data exfiltration. SCAP. All right, security. I think it's, I forget what the C stands for in SCAP. I think it's protocol. Security something automation protocol. Yeah, I think it's security configuration automated protocol. I could be wrong. Automated configuration, checking and vulnerability assessment against standardized benchmark. Yeah, so I think SCAP is this. It's automated configuration. I was completely wrong about the log file. Thinking of something different. To primarily check for which of the following. SCAP is primarily used for which of the following. Yeah, I think this is it. The first one. Okay, good. Which means if we go back, didn't we have one where we picked SCAP? And I'm able to go back here. I don't think we picked SCAP. We had a choice for SCAP. I think this is SNMP strap. So I'm pretty sure about this one now. And that is something I would definitely recommend you do in the actual Security Plus test, is you use clues from one question to help with other questions. Okay, after blank, a blank, SEM, blank rule. So we got a SEM device. SOC blank. SOC is overwhelmed blank with irrelevant data, maybe. The blank modifies something rules blank and blank exceptions. This process is called. Okay, so a SEM is producing a lot of alerts, I think, and the SOC is overwhelmed with alerts. So then we're going to be alert tuning. I think that makes a lot of sense. And we're just using the context clues. A SEM, and there's something with a rule. So after a SEM adjusted a rule, the SOC is overwhelmed with irrelevant alerts. The something modifies the alerts, the rules blank, and blank exceptions. This process is called alert tuning. Yeah, alert tuning. I think that's correct. Okay. Blank subscribes to a something service and provides something indicators that compromise newly blank exploits. What is an example to which something of something feed? Threat feed. It's probably threat feed. Okay, so like a company or organization, probably organization. Organization subscribes to a threat feed service or something that provides something indicators of compromise to newly examined or newly discovered exploits. This is an example of what type of feed. That's it would be a threat feed or open source intelligence, OSINT. Yeah, very good. Oh, of this is an example. This is an example of which type of threat feed. Which type of threat feed? Okay, so it's we're picking a type of threat feed because I see multiple types here. So proprietary third party makes the most sense because you're subscribing, you're paying for it. All right, cool. All right, this is doable. I had no idea how hard this would be, but it is doable. This is a mistake. This should be every other word, but that's not bad. All right, during blank blank scan, I got 2 blanks. A critical blank is blanked on a blank system. I feel like I'm on a radio show and I'm swearing and they're bleeping out every other word. Was blank patch. This blank investigation, blank vulnerability is, or something longer, 2 longer blank. This is known as a what? So during a scan, something to do with a scan, a critical vulnerability is discovered on a system that was recently patched. I would think this is going to be a 0-day vulnerability, maybe. 0-day exploit. The vulnerability is no longer there. This is known as a something. A critical vulnerability is discovered on a system that was recently patched. Well, I mean, a 0-day exploit is an exploit for which we don't have a patch available yet. So I kind of think it's going to be 0-day exploit. During investigation, this vulnerability is longer or no longer exists. I don't know. Wait, if this says no longer exists, then that would be a false positive. During a vulnerability scan, a critical vulnerability is discovered on a system that was recently patched. During investigation, this vulnerability no longer exists. This is known as a false positive. I'd say false positive. That makes more sense here to me. And if I put those words in, that kind of makes sense. So I'm kind of filling in the blanks with the words here. It's kind of interesting to see how my brain works to figure this out. Which something system blank a blank severity from... Now this is a little much. I wouldn't consider those words. You didn't have to blank out the numbers for me, Dr. Beal. It's a little much, but okay. From something to something for, and this is going to be 1, so maybe that's 1 or 0 to 10 for blank and widely for blank. Okay, so this is a common vulnerability scoring system, I think, because this is going to be from 0 to 10. So CVSS. Which scoring system, blank, blank, severity, blank. A system that scores severity is going to be the common vulnerability scoring system. That's the thing that gives you the vulnerability from 0 to 10. So CVSS, I think. Okay, which blank the blank is blank, a blank control. Cannot be patched. So which cannot be patched? Okay, let's say, what is the something? So if you can't patch something, then you have a vulnerability, you know about it. You have to explore other methods of addressing risk. You can't mitigate the risk by patching it, so we would want to maybe transfer the risk. Implementing network segmentation, that's possible. Purchasing insurance, that's a good way to transfer risk. Filing a CVE, that doesn't really help us address the vulnerability. Running a threat feed, that doesn't help us. Network segmentation makes a lot of sense if we're mitigating it. I don't know if we're mitigating it. Which is the blank is a blank, a something control, blank, a blank cannot be patched. So either it's network segmentation or purchasing insurance. Which is the most appropriate, or which is the something This one is really tough. I would think network segmentation, because then you can put a layered defense for that vulnerable network or that vulnerable node. Okay. A blank has a high blank of blank, and blank cause, blank financial, blank if blank, these primary, of which is vulnerability blank. All right. Okay. Are we filling in a blank? Now, if we're filling in a blank and the fill in the blank was blanked out, that's really a mind bender, isn't it? All right. Something has a high blank of blank, and blank cause, blank financial. So it's going to cause some financial harm if exploited, maybe. So these blank primarily, which of blank vulnerability? Okay, cause financial harm if these risks primarily exist, which something of vulnerability blank. Well, if we're prioritizing something, I think it makes sense here if we're saying high. If we say high, that implies we have moderate and low. So then we want to address that. So I think high would make sense from a prioritization standpoint. So I think prioritization is going to be the answer. But I'm not sure. I'm going to go ahead with prioritization. Just because I can't really tell much of an example there or figure out the context of that question. All right, this one looks a little easier. Which of the following, okay, that's a common way to start a question. Which of the following is an example of a blank used in security blank and blank validation? Which of the following is an example? Well, I puzzled out this part, but that really doesn't help me. Which of the following is an example of a blank used for security something and something validation? So security what? I mean, controls make sense. I would say controls. This has to, I think that if you're validating something, you'd be using controls. So I think controls are going to be the answer. The CVE database just lists vulnerabilities, and the score doesn't help you, and the bug bounty report's a red herring. So I think it's sys controls. All right, which of the following, so Dr. Beeler likes to use which of the following, is something a something method, something in something identification of blank vulnerability, something. Which of the following is, what is this? Is what? Is the, or not the, which of the following is, I don't know what this would be. Is used. Is use, no. It would be as then. Is used a no. Is something a something method for in something identification? This one's confusing me. Identification, something of something vulnerability. Okay, so we're addressing a vulnerability. That's what I got so far. That's a good place to start. I'd say vendor patches. Well, okay, a method in something identification. We're identifying a vulnerability. Maybe vulnerability scanning. Could this be validation? Which of the following is, this could be not. That'd be pretty crappy if that was not. Vendor package. Jeez, I don't know. in the identification blank blank of vulnerability something. So we're identifying something. I'm going to go with vulnerability scanning. Because if we're identifying vulnerabilities, this works and this works. This would be code-based. I don't see anything on here that says code. So I'm going to try vulnerability scanning. I'm really not too sure on this one. Okay. A blank wants blank monitor blank traffic and blank large blank transfers, installing blank on an endpoint. Something tool is most appropriate. This tool, which tool is most appropriate? Okay. Wants to monitor traffic and large data transfers, something installing blank on an endpoint. So by installing something on an endpoint, this without installing something on each endpoint, which tool is most appropriate? If you want to monitor traffic and transfers without installing something on an endpoint, it wouldn't be host-based. It wouldn't be an agent. It would be agentless. So I think this makes sense because both of these are host-based. SNMP trap would also be at the host level. So I think agentless net flow analysis makes sense. Because I think the only word that makes sense here, without installing. Large data transfers, because why would there be a word between transfers and installing? Or this would be like by installing. So I think this is without installing something on an endpoint. And I don't know what these two words are. But I think it'd be agentless, just based on those clues. Okay, during an incident, something security, something immediately, something blank workstation, blank the blank to blank, blank, blank. This is known as something is known as immediately isolates. And wouldn't it be isolates infected. Isolates an infected workstation, because this would have to start with a val, because that's an infected workstation from the network to halt or stop lateral transfer or lateral movement, to prevent lateral movement. During an incident, the security team immediately isolates an infected workstation from the network to, forgot what I said, halt something lateral movement, to prevent lateral movement. This technique is known as quarantine. That's my guess. I think that's pretty good. All right, your blank must blank security for 1 billion years. No, something years to comply with industry standards. Okay, your company must maintain security logs for 1 billion years to comply with industry standards. This something is something addressed in which blank activity. Archiving. You're going to archive logs, so that makes sense. All right. I think we're almost done here. Senior blank has blank accepted the risk of blank vulnerability, blank the blank of blank exceeds the potential risk. Oh, geez. Okay, so it's a risk question, and something exceeds the cost or something of the potential risk. This is documented as a what? It couldn't even give me the an or the hint. Something blank has blank accepted the risk of something vulnerability. Okay. So this has to be If you've accepted the risk, then we're doing something with the accepted risk. So I guess this would be an exception. Oftentimes when you accept the risk for something, you're making an exception to policy. So I'm going to guess exception. All right. A blank team, blank hundreds of alerts in per hour, blank potential, blank, but blank turn to blank benign, blank. Okay, but many turn into, well, not into, something to benign something. What is the long-term effect to blank this blank? I mean, alert tuning seems to make sense here. Something like a security team receives hundreds of alerts per hour. If you're getting hundreds of alerts per hour, you need to do alert tuning. Quarantine all flag files, that's not the answer. I know that. Disable the antivirus. Whenever you see all or every in an answer, usually it's not the answer. And that goes for any question. Disable antivirus alerts, it's a bad idea. Switch to agentless monitoring. I'd say alert tuning. Seems to make sense to me. And Dr. Beeler already used alert tuning somewhere in this quiz, so he's probably still on his brain as he's making this. You got to get in the head of the question writer. It's a good technique to help you pass exams. All right, which blank is blank used to blank, collect blank, blank, and blank logs, hundreds of blank, 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 blank. A SEM. Something about logs, collecting, and centralizing. Seems like a SEM. All right, finish quiz. Let's see how we did. I got to finish the quiz here. I don't know. I hope I passed. All right, here we go. Quiz complete. Wow, I got 19 out of 20. I'm pretty impressed. Okay, let's see how I did. Static analysis. I still don't see the question. Static analysis views codes or binaries without running the program. Is that what this said? Involves blank, blank, source code without. Wow, geez, I can't believe I got 19 out of 20. That's pretty good. SNMP trap, that's good. Asynchronous notifications sent from devices. Okay, bug bounty program. Yep, that made sense. A blank solution alerting. I'm surprised at that one. DLP systems. So, yeah, just alerting, I guess, was the general question. Perform an alter vulnerability scan. Well, that was it. Rescanning is a prior method to confirm that a vulnerability is successfully remediated. Oh, to evaluate remediation. Okay, that makes sense. SCAP, standardized. What does SCAP stand for again? I think it's... I can look it up now. I'm done with the question. Let's see. Security Content Automation Protocol. Content. Okay, got it. Content. So alert tuning was correct. A proprietary third party. I think we got that one pretty confidently. During a blank scan. Okay, this is false positive. That made sense. When the scanner incorrectly reports a CVSS system, this made sense just because of the numbers there. Network segmentation. That worked because why? Segmentation WAF rules disable feature common compensating controls. I still don't know what we're compensating for, but it was the correct answer. Blank caused a high something. Business impact, exposure factor, risk tolerance, organizational impacts are all used during prioritization phase. Which phase of vulnerability? Primary phase. I don't know where phase fits in there, but prioritization was correct. SIS benchmark, that's correct. Secure baselines, they're checked via SCAP, right? SCAP is used to check off of the baselines. This was wrong. Vulnerability scanning. This is a method identification of vulnerability. Patching belongs to response remediation phase, not identification. Vendor patches. Okay. So we're missing the phase of the vulnerability of some sort of process. So we're missing the phase. I'm not too upset about missing that one. Blank wants to monitor agentless. Made sense here because we didn't want to have something on the endpoints. And then quarantining this. I think I actually guessed the full question there. Archiving is where you would figure out what you're doing with your logs. And then making an exception makes sense here. Alert tuning, that works here. And then the SEM device is where you centralize the logs. Great. So I got 19 out of 20. I'll put this up on the website on cyberkrafttraining.com. If you want to challenge yourself to the quiz, have at it. It's going to be Security Plus Challenge Quiz 1. But yeah, I hope this was helpful for you. I'll put the link in the description. Thanks so much for watching the video. I'm really impressed that I got that. And kind of that shows you, the main goal of this is to show you where to pick out those keywords. Okay, there's reasons the question writers have to justify their answers somehow. Okay, so this would source. If I see source in there, I know we're talking about code. I don't even need to see the word code. For example, I understand that's source code. You don't really use source anywhere else. So if you're seeing these key words and phrases, why are we talking about routers and firewalls? Well, we have to be talking about something like SNMP, network monitoring protocol. So we have to have, and then this one, vulnerabilities, and it's available to the public. That tells me if I know something with vulnerabilities available to the public, already gives me an idea that that's bug bounty. So I'm looking for those keywords and phrases. I don't even have to see all the words in the question to do that type of analysis. So I hope this is helpful for you. I really appreciate you watching the video. Thank you as always. Have a great day.